Hello, this is Jason P. Wilson 01 X-Force, and this is my Marvel and Image comic pull list for the week of October 5th, 2011, and today is the 7th. And first up here for my Marvels is, of course, X-Men Schism, the conclusion, number 5. Now, it starts right where the last issue left off, and I really liked the direction they were going at the end of the last issue. I liked how Wolverine and Cyclops are going blow to blow, and the Sentinel is coming. So you kind of see this like battle royale type three-way battle starting, and that's exactly where this starts off. The action in this book is really good, and even though I felt that Wolverine would have beat the living crap out of Cyclops, and I would have liked to have seen that, because I'm firmly in Wolverine's corner with this whole argument they're having about Scott wanting the kids, the young teenagers, to stay and fight like soldiers, and Wolverine wanting to save the kids and get them off the island. Definitely on Wolverine's side. I felt that because they knew that Wolverine could take a lot of damage, they let him take a lot of damage, and because the writers knew that Scott could not, they made sure that his damage was limited. So I felt that they were like kitten gloves in the writing. Let's face it, if they really wanted to kill each other, Wolverine would take out Cyclops. I like Cyclops. I respect him. I know he's very capable in hand-to-hand combat, as well as his optic blast is really powerful, and he uses it with great effect. Still, a lot of this is like within range of each other, like arm's reach, and that's really Wolverine does his most damage. So all I was telling myself while I was reading this is Logan doesn't want to really do any real damage. Like, he doesn't want to kill Scott, or he would have. He simply wanted to beat the crap out of him, which he kind of did. But you know, Wolverine can take it, so he took a lot of optic blasts to the face. I mean, a lot. His face is basically melted off. But ultimately, you know, they ended up fighting the Sentinel. But what happened between them, the divide that happened, it was something that could not be gapped. And at the end of the comic, as we all know, they go their separate ways. Now here's what really got me peeved at Cyclops' character. They're going their separate ways, and instead of being like, okay, I understand your perspective, I don't agree, but alright, like he's done before. He's always been like an honorable leader, but we know as of late he's become a real kind of jackass. And for me, who's been reading X-Force since Volume 2, you know, right away I saw the big problems Wolverine was having with taking some orders from Cyclops that he didn't necessarily agree with, like X-23 being on the team. He did not want that, and when Cyclops forced the issue, he punched Cyclops in the face, like, I'll do it, but man, you know, I'm not happy with the decisions you're making. So they've been not getting along since the very beginning, but for me, that's when I saw the orders having issues with Wolverine. So, you know, Cyclops knows this. So at the end, he could have said something like, I understand their differences and stuff, I see your point of view, but he doesn't. He's like, so I was right, and you're wrong, Logan, so aren't you going to say that you're wrong? Like, really? How can you make a character so unlikable? I mean, I like Cyclops, and there was some moments in the series that you really felt that he was struggling with who he was and who he is, and you know, that brought depth to it. But they gotta make him such a jerk sometimes. Ugh. Anyways, I was definitely glad to see the split. We all know that X-Men has needed a focus for a long time now. The only two truly good X books, consistently good, have been X-Force, Uncanny X-Force, and X-23. But all the other X books have been really sporadic about if they're good, if they're terrible. It's been all over the place. So they needed this event to really give focus to all the X books. I'm definitely going to be picking up the one-shot Regenesis, which comes out next week. as well as the new series Wolverine and the X-Men. And I will also be picking up the relaunching of Uncanny X-Men. Uncanny X-Men is always been one of my favorite comics, even though I have not been reading it lately. Back in the day, it was the comic for me that made me love Marvel stuff. So I think this is a great time for me to jump back on Uncanny X-Men. So those two will be the comics I will be getting. I will not be getting any of the other titles. I actually have dropped quite a few titles. All my DC, Marvel, and Image, I dropped like 18 comics from my saver. I still probably have too much in my saver even after that, but I made the big cuts. But I did add those two books. So, yes, a really good series. Even though they've had a different artists handling these books, and that is a bit distracting. I did like the artist here on this last book, though, and overall, I thought it was a really good series. Again, I really wanted to see like Cyclops like on his knees, just at the mercy of Wolverine, and have Wolverine like let him be or something like that. Didn't quite get the satisfaction of Cyclops getting it like I wanted, but I guess it kind of sets up maybe future problems that they might have now that they're on separate teams. Here's something else though. It's way unbalanced. Like, Cyclops walked away with the main X-Men team, all the powerhouses. Wolverine walked away with all the new X-Men, all the younger X-Men, with a couple established characters, but mostly the young X-Men. So power-wise, there's really no contest. Cyclops has the power team. Not that they're going head-to-head or anything, but I kind of see what they're doing too. Wolverine's like the new Xavier. In fact, at the end of the comic, he goes back to the ruins of the original Xavier school for the gifted. So I thought that was really neat. It's also kind of interesting too because Cyclops has always been like the teacher leader, and Wolverine has not. He's done it with X-23, Jubilee, and Kitty Pryde, but that's it. You know, he hasn't really mentored a large group of young mutants to be like a teacher, not counting the animated series stuff. In the comics, he's really been kind of a loner. So I thought that was kind of cool for his character to do that. And a lot of these characters that are with him now were on Generation Hope, which I've been reading, but I just recently, after the Schism crossover, I cut that from my saver as well. So it's cool that I'm going to get some of those characters still in there. So with that was a really good series, and I definitely am going to be picking up on trade and recommend picking this up on trade. It wasn't quite what Second Coming was, but still I thought it was a much needed event for the X-Men, and it was done quite well. Alright, next up here is X-23 number 15. X-23 has been a very solid comic from the very beginning. The worst this comic has ever been for the last 15 issues has been solid. Everything else has been really good or extremely well done. And even though they get different artists on the team, sometimes even in the same book, which I really hate, in any comic does that, it should be one artist writing one book. Maybe change the next one, but you should not mix up artists like on different pages. They did that a few times, but nothing major. This current story arc is part 3 with Future Foundation being with her, and it's been really well done. The artist is an artist that's well known for comic art galleries, but I haven't seen anything that he's done in comic form, and I have to say I really enjoy this artist. Even though I don't really like some of his designs, it doesn't matter. He handles the characters with emotion, and he paces his art really well. The writing is also really solid. Again, X-23 has been a consistently really good title, and it's one of the few X titles which you can read completely separate. you could just read this, and there was only one crossover, which was with her estranged brother, Dark Wolverine, but it was a really good crossover. That was the only time I had to go buy a comic that I wasn't currently reading. For the most part, it's by itself, which is really nice, especially next book. So, this is definitely a series some of you might be thinking about jumping on. In fact, this story arc is coming to a close soon, so it's probably a good time to be jumping on. Really good. X-23, I love the character. That's the only reason why I started this series, but I have to say, now I'm going to be staying on series because of the consistent good teams that are put in this book. Really good issue as well. This is a great part 3. Next up here is a series that I say goodbye to. I've officially crossed this off my saver, and I will not be picking up any future issues. In fact, I had 2 issues in my saver. This .1 issue and then the newest one. And I went ahead and put the newest one and said, I'm not going to get this, but I will get this .1 issue to kind of say goodbye and have my final Thunderbolts. I'm ready to drop the book. Nothing to fault of the book because it's been really good. But I haven't even read all my back issues yet, so I can continue to read Thunderbolts that's new to me. But it's been really good, especially since Cage took over. When the team was at its best was, when Juggernaut joined the team and stuff. That was a really great few story arcs after that. And even though it's still solid and still good, I felt it was a great time for me to drop the book. No complaints. If you're looking to get Thunderbolts, I have nothing but great things to say about it. But I've been reading it for a little while now, and I'm ready to make room for other new comics. Though this is a great way to say goodbye. It's .1 issue, kind of sets up where the direction that the Thunderbolts are going to now. But it was a nice wrap-up one-shot. That was a great way for me to kind of like say goodbye to the series. Alright. And those were my Marvel. Next up here on my Image. First up for my Image is Vescell number 2. Vescell is a very original comic, and issue 2 is just as original and crazy in some ways as the first one was. There's this one scene where one of the main characters here I can't explain. It's hard to explain. You have to read it to understand. But one of the characters, she is doing something, and she takes that something and she stabs this giant robot, and it's one giant eyeball. I laughed out loud. I thought it was hilarious. Again, you're going to have to read it to get what I'm saying, but I can say this. This is 2 issues in, and I'm not sure if I'm going to be keeping this just because I'm making the hard choices, and I already made a lot of cuts. So for books to stay with me, they have to be like cream of the crop of what I like. I do really like this. Positive stuff. I'll start with the negative stuff. The artist is just okay. It's interesting. The artist does an interesting job with this. So it's not like I can say that it's bad artwork, 'cause it's not. It's pretty good. But it's not really the style I prefer, though I can see if people are really liking the artwork. I can get that. So the artwork is probably the weakest thing in the book. The great things about the book are the size, for instance. $2.99, it's like the first issue is a double size. The second issue is also like a double size issue. There's a lot in here. And that's really great. It's great for value. It's also really original. You're not going to read a story like this anywhere else, I guarantee you. It is, there's this dimension that's merging with our dimension, and that dimension is full with supernatural creatures, and those supernatural creatures are ruled by these several demon lords, and so they're crossing over into our dimension, and Vescell is the agency that's keeping them at bay. Even though I explained it, it doesn't explain it, because there is really interesting and crazy characters. The powers are really original. The dialogue, the writing's well done. This is great science fiction. It almost reminds me of like Doctor Who science fiction. Really weird and crazy science fiction, but it's so different that it's captivating. It's also a mature book. This is definitely for adults. There's a lot of mature stuff going on, as well as a lot of mature sexuality. But it's done in a campy way, and it's pretty hilarious. So Vescell is definitely a book I'm going to get a few more issues of, but I'm not sure as yet if I'm going to be keeping it. But I really appreciate its fresh take in comics. And last up here is Severed. Severed number 3. Scott Snyder. Scott Tuft doing the art. This is all about Scott Snyder, and I have to say Tuft really has been doing some great artwork that really fits well with Scott Snyder. But I gotta say this, if you're not reading Severed right now, you've got to pick this up on trade. You could go back and get the first couple issues in second printing. It's probably pretty easy. But if you're interested, especially right now with Halloween coming up and stuff, the month of October, if you're interested in suspenseful horror, you have got to read this book. I don't mean to oversell it. I mean, I don't want to oversell it, but Scott Snyder is becoming quickly one of my favorite writers. I think him and Winnick are really getting up there. Scott Snyder is almost up there with Jeff Johns and Morrison for me. I really think that he's on that level, close to being on that level. Everything he's writing right now is really intriguing and well written and really keeps you turning the pages. And when you're done reading it, you just can't wait to see where it goes. You know, that's where I can see people getting Scott Snyder trades over Scott Snyder issues. Maybe they just they can't wait and they want to see where the story goes, and they can if they just wait till trade. But I'm really glad that I get a single issues, because I like that. Like, ooh, I can't wait. So then it comes next month, and I'm excited to get it, and I get it, and I read it, and I'm like, oh great, that was wonderful. Severed, really intense, very suspenseful, a page turner, and that's been consistent with all these 3 issues, and I have no question it's going to be like that for the remainder of the series. Excellent series, and I'm definitely picking up on trade to have in my collection. And with that, I'm curious what you guys are reading right now, if you guys are reading any of these books, and what you guys think of them. Also, are there any books that you guys are currently reading from Marvel or Image that you think I should try? And with that said, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.